Tonight, COVID-19 cases in Ontario reach a new high and the push to vaccinate people intensifies.
We are trying to get all people vaccinated for the safety of all.
With mobile clinics deployed to different parts of the city, officials hope to reduce barriers for people who are still unvaccinated.
There's no return address, so that envelope wouldn't go anywhere.
A vote-by-mail kit with no return address. Why a Whitby man worries some ballots may not be counted if others voting by mail don't pay attention. And a group of blind hockey players skates across Ontario to raise awareness about blind hockey programs.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. For the second year in a row, back to school is happening during a pandemic. But this time around, public health has a new weapon in the fight against rising case counts: COVID-19 vaccines. Hala Goneim has more on the push to get more Canadians vaccinated before the fourth wave is out of control.
Health officials across Canada are doing whatever it takes to get more shots in arms. The urgency is growing as students prepare to head back to school next week. In Toronto, officials have deployed mobile clinics to neighborhoods with low vaccination rates.
I was just waiting around for lunch and I thought it would be best to get vaccinated while I'm here anyways.
We are trying to get all people vaccinated for the safety of all.
The goal is to reduce barriers for people who are still unvaccinated.
We know that there are still people, I can tell you from my own clinical experience, people who have said, I haven't been vaccinated yet. Not necessarily that they don't want to, but they just haven't got around to it. And so the goal here is to get to where people live, to make it as easy as possible for them, hopefully to have their community members bring them even to these mobile clinics as well.
Meanwhile, officials in Alberta are taking an unprecedented approach to boosting numbers.
For the love of God, please get vaccinated now. And if you do, we will now pay you $100. Today, we are announcing that Alberta will be the first province to offer a personal monetary incentive to step up and do the right thing.
Canada's Deputy Chief Public Health Officer says nearly 7.6 million eligible Canadians still have not been fully vaccinated. And if those numbers don't change soon, the Public Health Agency of Canada predicts a Delta-driven fourth wave may be worse than the third by mid-October.
Right now, it's probably up to all of us, especially if we want to see a fall with kids in school and most things open like we are now, to do those nudges and have those difficult conversations and get people on the page to get vaccinated.
Officials in provinces that have announced proof of vaccination systems, including Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia, say they've seen more unvaccinated people step forward.
What the mandatory vaccination policy does is it makes life inconvenient for those who are not vaccinated.
Meanwhile, protests against mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations continue across the country, with many pushing back on proof of vaccination systems. Hala Goneim, CBC News, Toronto.
And today, the province reported the highest daily number of cases in more than 3 months. 944 COVID-19 cases were logged today. Here's the regional breakdown. Out of the new cases reported today with known vaccination status, 65% were in unvaccinated people. 10% had a single dose and about 24% had 2 doses. The Ontario Health Ministry also reported the deaths of 9 more people with COVID-19. However, it says 5 of those deaths occurred more than 2 months ago. A Whitby man recently received his vote-by-mail kit for the upcoming federal election and noticed there are issues with the package. The return envelope is blank, and he worries if others aren't paying attention, their ballots may not be counted. Jessica Ng brings us the story.
My vote right now is still in my house. I don't want to send it because I know for a fact it's not going to go anywhere.
For nearly a decade, Val Herring has managed election vote-by-mail kits for private companies. So when he received his special ballot voting kit for the federal election, he knew it didn't look quite right.
What should the envelope have?
There's no return address, so that envelope wouldn't go anywhere.
And even using the address on the outside of the envelope the kit arrived in might not work, he worries.
They should have what they call a business reply envelope or return envelope, which it's almost has a barcode.
Instead of a letter mail indicia.
Indicia is actually used for mailing houses that are doing big mailings,
which he says goes to specialized Canada Post depots.
Our Whitby election office, they made the boo-boo, and it's very, local thing.
Currently, over 435,000 Canadians have registered to vote by mail. We reached out to Elections Canada, and they said staff may have accidentally mailed this kit without first affixing the return address label, going on to say errors do happen from time to time. Val, though, he wants the nonpartisan agency to take more responsibility.
I'm afraid if everyone got that envelope, nobody will get back the election offices. They will not get back those envelopes.
He also believes the ballot itself should have local candidates listed, so votes are not voided by miswriting a candidate's name. Val can no longer vote in person on September 20th, now that he is registered for this vote-by-mail kit.
Being such a tight election, like time frame, people, this was like incentive. Hey, you can vote by mail, and we advertise, and we encourage you to do that. But this entire process is very, sorry to say, vanilla.
A spokesperson for Elections Canada says if your special ballot voting kit is missing a return address, you can enter your postal code online at elections.ca or call your local Elections Canada office to obtain the correct return address. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
Wednesday marked the halfway point in the federal election campaign. Voting day is now just over 2 weeks away. Marian Warnica has a look at where the parties were today and where they stand in the polls.
For those of you out there who haven't yet, please get vaccinated.
The Conservative leader taking a more enthusiastic tone than voters may be used to seeing so far from him on vaccines. One day after Canada's Chief Public Officer of Health warned we could see up to 15,000 COVID cases per day by the end of the month without higher vaccination rates and more restrictive health measures.
We need to persuade every Canadian that vaccines are safe, effective.
Erin O'Toole is not in favor of the mandatory vaccines that some other leaders are promising for certain activities like travel on planes and trains, but did announce today that he would introduce a national proof of vaccination system. He was also asked again to clarify his party's stance on gun control.
When you said you'll maintain the ban on assault weapons, when you denied that your platform would legalize the gun used in the Polytechnic shooting, when you repeated that again in English yesterday morning and again today, that you would maintain this assault weapons ban, do you think the ordinary Canadian realizes you're talking about a bill from 1977?
O'Toole has faced some criticism over the past few days for not clearly stating in public his party's platform promise to repeal 2 major gun control measures introduced by the federal government in recent years, including a ban on weapons like the one used in the Montreal massacre in 1989.
As a mother, as a parent, I have a 4-year-old girl that plays in the streets. I want to know, Erin O'Toole, which of these assault weapons are you going to put back on our streets?
The Liberals tried to drive up the pressure and keep the conversation focused on gun control at an event in Quebec. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau was not campaigning today as his party wraps up this week dealing with the resignation of a candidate amid accusations of inappropriate behavior with female staff and polling slightly behind the Conservatives. It was not a banner week for the Bloc either, with that party slipping back. The Green Party also falling to 5th place behind the People's Party of Canada.
There is no separating your dental health from your overall well-being, your overall health.
Heading into the long weekend in solid 3rd, the NDP, taking their message to Atlantic Canada. Leader Jagmeet Singh hyped his party's proposal for universal dental care in St. John's this morning.
We're going to keep on working hard. We're going to keep on pushing throughout this campaign.
Perhaps hoping his opponent's controversy-filled last few days on the campaign trail may help his party narrow the gap in ridings like this one. Marian Warnica, CBC News, Ottawa.
More now on that Ontario Liberal candidate dropping out of the federal election over allegations of inappropriate behavior with female staff. Raj Saini was running in the riding of Kitchener Centre. The accusations against him included inappropriate touching and harassment. Saini denies the allegations, but faced with them, he says continuing his campaign would not serve the interests of either his family, his team, or his constituents. Green Party leader Annamie Paul hosted a housing rally in her Toronto Centre riding.
And so there was a real need back in 2016. There is a real need now. There is an affordable housing crisis, and it is time to solve it once and for all.
The rally was held in a riding she failed to win during a by-election last October when a seat opened up following former Finance Minister Bill Morneau's resignation. She called on the federal government for a reinvestment in community supportive housing. That includes a residential tenant support benefit for those at risk of being evicted due to late payments caused by the pandemic. There's a new development in a Toronto homicide investigation. One of two suspects wanted has turned himself in. Tyler George is charged with manslaughter in the death of 77-year-old John Mannion. The aggravated assault took place on August 6th, just north of Toronto's beaches. It was pronounced a homicide when Mannion died of his injuries 3 weeks later. Arja Duffy is the second suspect still wanted. She is considered violent and dangerous. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And in a separate homicide investigation, Toronto police have identified 42-year-old Floriano Lopez as the victim. Officers received a call for a shooting in the northwest end of the city yesterday. Lopez was found by police on scene suffering from life-threatening gunshot wounds. He was transported to hospital but later died of his injuries. The suspect is Jonathan Kozuch. He has been charged with second-degree murder. Restaurant owners are calling for a stop to construction of an IKEA store in downtown Toronto, scheduled to open early next year. The dining area of the food court is closed off for elevator construction. As Dale Manukduk reports, it's a space that the food operators say they're still paying for.
At the bottom of Canada's tallest residential tower, a tease of what's to come, a downtown IKEA location inside Aura condominiums. But further below, in the basement food court, things are less than bright. Elevator construction has shut down the dining area, encased in floor-to-ceiling drywall. It's ruined business for vendors.
Every month we pay the rental fee, including this area.
You know, they closed this area, and they didn't tell us. They just closed it by themselves, and we got no information or notice.
According to several vendors, the constant flickering lights and closed seating area has devastated their business. Noah Lowe's sales are down upwards of 70%.
So after we saw the wall, we think we should get at least the plan for the conversation, but they don't give us the plan.
The vendors have received nothing for their troubles. There's also the construction noise. A formal complaint was filed by one business owner who's been monitoring the noise levels and says on average it's above 80 decibels.
So before pandemic, my customer, they making long line. Our business is very busy.
Oh, she's really busy. Yeah, that's true.
This time, so no customer.
A couple days ago, they were drilling upstairs as well and things like that, which was really noisy. And when customers were calling in to place orders, we couldn't really hear them that well either.
An IKEA spokesperson couldn't answer when the elevator construction would be complete, but said the company is grateful to both their commercial and residential neighbors for their continued patience and understanding. CBC also reached out to the property management team and condo's board of directors and did not hear back. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Starting today, GO Transit will increase its services to meet expected demand from those returning to school or work this fall. This includes a new partnership between the TTC and MyWay in an effort to improve commutes to universities. All train lines and most bus routes will match or exceed the services offered prior to the pandemic. That includes reinstated weekday express trips for those in Kitchener, Barrie, and Stouffville. Well, 9 outdoor pools in the city of Toronto have been granted an extended season to help residents cool off. All other outdoor pools are set to close for the season tomorrow. But the select 9 pools will be open for regular hours from Labor Day Monday until September 19th. Reduced capacity for physical distancing and signing in for contact tracing are among the public health guidelines in effect. And Sophia, we talked about how important having a thing to cool off in has been over the course of this summer. But it's cooled off a little bit in the last little while.
It's so much more comfortable. I think we deserved it. I'm going to show you a little later on in the show how hot it really was in August. But it's the perfect weekend to enjoy that cool dip still. Go out with a bang. Do a couple cannonballs for me into the pool this weekend. It is the perfect time to do so. Really a not bad long weekend, mainly dry, but just a little bit of chance of instability here and there to keep our eyes to the sky in a few different ways. Clear for the air show, though. I'll tell you about the forecast for the big day tomorrow in just a minute. We're watching showers across the province right now. You will see more moderate rain over the next hour or two in southwestern Ontario. Kind of push in. It's into the overnight that we will see the rain potentially into the GTA. This is really scattered, patchy, isolated showers in nature. We actually might miss it altogether. Look at this hole that comes up around much of the GTA around the early morning hours. And then by the afternoon, just after the lunch hour, everything is all clear and dry. Just a few clouds remaining around the GTA, which is great news for any of the outdoor events that you have going on tomorrow, including the Jays game potentially, or even into the air show. Now, coming up, we'll talk a little bit about how much rain you're actually going to see. It will be a little bit more for those of you in cottage country, but still not a washout of a day. We're talking 5 to 10 millimeters or so all around. So still a pretty good long weekend. Rain will return into Monday for those of you. And then coming up in the long range, what will the back to school forecast have in store? Will the kids wear jeans or shorts? It's the big question, Maribel.
Oh, in suspense. Okay, we'll come back for it in a few minutes.
With bated breath.
Exactly. Fighting continued in Afghanistan today in the one province not yet under Taliban control. Panjshir province, north of Kabul, is walled off by mountains. It successfully resisted the first Taliban government and the Soviet invasion before that. Opposition forces say they have pushed the Taliban back at the southern border. Today in Kabul, there are reports of a visit from the head of Pakistan's intelligence service. There's speculation his mission is aimed at helping the Taliban reorganize the military. New Zealand's Prime Minister is vowing to toughen anti-terror laws following a knife attack on Friday. Jacinda Ardern says she wants legislation passed by October, making it easier to jail anyone suspected to be planning attacks. The recent attack happened inside an Auckland supermarket. 7 people were wounded, 3 critically. The attacker died after being shot by police. Authorities identified him as an Islamic State supporter. He was jailed for 3 years in 2016 and was under surveillance. Here's a live look at Ottawa right now. Coming up, Sophia will have the long-range forecast, and we'll tell you about a group of blind hockey players making their way to this city to raise awareness. Stay with us. This is a very determined group of blind hockey players lacing up their rollerblades as part of the Courage 21 inline skate fundraiser. They're skating 1,000 kilometers over 10 days. The team started in Windsor and they're making their way to Ottawa. Today, they made a stop in Toronto. The goal, to spread awareness about blind hockey programs across the country.
On the team, we have 3 blind skaters. Each blind skater is accompanied by a guide. The guide's job is to help the skater navigate the terrain and point out changes in terrain or navigating traffic. It's a safety feature and also just part of making sure that I have a good skate. We want as many Ontarians and Canadians as possible to know that the game of hockey should be accessible and inclusive for everyone. For the blind community in this province and country, it's no different.
Great message. The team's initial goal was to raise $100,000 to help support the Canadian efforts, but they say thanks to the support they've received, they've already exceeded that fundraising goal.
Oh, so great.
It looked like a rainy track there in Tokyo, Sophia, and a little bit of that in store for us.
Yeah, the reigning medalists with their grit and determination and heart, and our rain here at home, Maribel. Light at times, though we are seeing some moderate rain move through the Barrie area right now. It's a sign of things to come over the next couple days, folks. Patchy, isolated showers. It will be the name of the game. Look at this national pattern. It will really set the scene for you over the next long-range forecast. Really exaggerated troughs and exaggerated ridges. What this means is periods of stable weather, periods of active weather, rinse and repeat over the next couple days, especially as you head into the next 12 to 36 hours. Overnight tonight, we talked about some of that rain that could come through, will be very light. Maybe you'll miss all of it in the GTA. And then again, another front will come in Sunday night into Monday. Same story, will be mainly clear by the time you clear Monday afternoon. And then for this week ahead, we are talking really nice, fresh seasonal values. In fact, Labor Day Monday will be one of the cooler days of your short range forecast. And then you are bang on seasonal for this week ahead, which will be lovely. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. We were talking about that a little earlier in the show, Maribel, how hot it's really been in August. And if you thought so, you were right. On average, the month of August, we're about 16 degrees when you average out the temperatures all together. Our new average record was set for this past month at 19 degrees. It was an abnormally hot month, but really it's a sigh of relief for this next 7-day forecast. It's a beautiful back to school forecast. What you see is what you get. Feels like very similar to the forecast high, and mainly dry and sunny days ahead. Even for back to school day, whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday for any of your cohorts heading back to school. By the time the kids are outside enjoying their first lunch hour of the September school year, it will feel like 24 degrees and mainly sunny. There is a bit of a storm chance we're looking at for Tuesday, but it's a little far out. I'll have more information on that tomorrow, but it should be a really nice day for any of the kids heading back, whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, Maribel. Pretty good feels like too.
Yeah, that looks great. Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Just before we let you go, though, a reminder, if you're in Toronto and couldn't catch the snowbirds in action earlier today, the Canadian International Air Show will be on again tomorrow, starting at noon until 3 p.m. Take care. Stay safe, everyone. Good night.